You're damn right you are. That line reportedly was ad-libbed by Michael Keaton and has been repurposed by several actors to don the cowl, literally and metaphorically in the case of animation, since. Keaton wasn't always such a confident pick for the Caped Crusader. Three actors had played the role before: Lewis Wilson in 1943 and Robert Lowry in 1949. The most significant, however, was Adam West in 1966 for the Batman television series and its feature film. West would put an important mark on the character, and one that fans of the comic might not fondly remember. The television show turned the Dark Knight into a lighthearted crime fighter, putting an unimposing man in tights and a cowl and pitting him against various foes, other adults in ridiculous costumes. The show was very successful, but once the interest in bright colors and silly stories died, so did the mainstream interest in Batman. The success of 1986's Dark Knight Returns and 1988's The Killing Joke brought interest back to the character, and Warner Brothers approached several actors to play the lead. Mel Gibson, Charlie Sheen, and Bill Murray, among others, were considered to play the role. The latter, along with the inclusion of Tim Burton, who was best known for Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, made fans wonder if this would be an immediate death to the life brought back to the character. Burton offered an audition to Ray Liotta, who declined, as did Pierce Brosnan. Producer John Peters suggested Michael Keaton, who Burton had worked with in his titular role in Beetlejuice. While Clean and Sober had recently been in theaters when Keaton was announced as the lead, most audiences knew him from his comedy roles, and the concern that this new film would return the character to the role of slapstick continued. It didn't help that Adam West was publicly petitioning to reprise the role, saying that he was, after all, the true Batman that most audiences remembered. In response to the concern of fans, a trailer was released, focusing on the dark, grim aesthetics of Gotham City and Burton's design for the Batsuit, Batmobile, and the Joker. The trailer was so successful that fans would purchase tickets to other films to see it and then leave immediately afterwards. Keeping in mind, this was before the internet, and it would be almost 2 decades before YouTube would make a trailer shown to an exclusive audience on one side of the planet be common knowledge to the other side within minutes. To be common knowledge to the world within minutes. Bob Kane, co-creator of Batman and what DC billed for more than 50 years to be the sole man behind the character, stated that the film would be dark and the Joker would be a violent, unstable murderer. This wasn't, by all accounts, Adam West's Batman. Despite this, sources claim, Warner Brothers received more than 50,000 letters petitioning the choice of the actor. Pop culture magazines were filled with letters to the editor, stressing their Pop culture magazines were filled with letters to the editor, stressing their disapproval or voicing Pop culture magazines were filled with letters to the editor, stressing their disapproval or voicing support for Keaton after seeing Clean and Sober. For example, fan J. Allen Bollock, a real estate appraiser in Sewanee, Georgia, wrote in 1988, Hollywood is just in it for the money, and Warner Brothers has been doing a bit of duplicity. No pun intended. I don't think Mr. Burton has any interest in making a serious Batman movie, but Batman has been a part of my childhood. He deserves a bit of respect. Even Michael Uslan, the man responsible for every film iteration of Batman excluding the 1966 movie, having purchased the rights to the character in 1979, showed concern for the casting. He's a comedian, he said. I mean, what's the poster going to say? Mr. Mom is Batman? John Peters disagreed. Peters said he wanted a man who's a real person who happens to put on this weird armor. A guy who's funny and scary. Keaton's both. He's got that explosive insanity inside. Eventually, even Uslan was convinced, telling Slaughterhouse Magazine in 1989 that Keaton looks sensational and works beautifully. For his performance, Keaton played Bruce and Batman as very different parts of the same person, something audiences didn't see with previous actors. He'd considered altering his appearance slightly with contact lenses, and settled on lowering his voice an octave when wearing the cape and cowl. This brings us to the suit, which had a significant part in creating his performance. We will cover that in the next episode. Unlike the comic version of the character, which would make Bruce downplay his large build, Keaton played up, using the costume and the tools available to the character to build Batman into something larger than he actually was. He saw Batman as a performer, hiding his build with a suit equipped with muscles, a cape to mask his shape, smoke pellets and a grapple gun to disguise his exits, and make climbing unneeded. It made Batman into the myth that he was in his universe. Burton once said, "Michael Keaton is basically an ordinary guy, a regular human being. I thought it would be much more interesting to take someone like that and make him into Batman." I met a number of very good, square-jawed actors, but the bottom line was that I just couldn't see them putting on a bat suit. Keaton was ordinary, though there was an asterisk. His Bruce was funny, but slightly off, seeming uncomfortable with himself and unsure how to relate to others. It made sense that he chose to spend his time alone in the Batcave, and didn't make his presence or person known at a banquet held in his own home. The name Wayne was known in Gotham, but the person wasn't. Keaton may have been what most saw as a strange choice, but he was playing Bruce as a strange man, and it allowed for future versions of Bruce to be more real, more human. It permitted young audiences to insert themselves into the role of Batman, something that characters like Superman, the only successful superhero to be featured in a film before, didn't. Keaton himself understood the impact of the character on superhero films, saying, "Tim changed, or started, everything, and I'm proud of the choice I made, in terms of how to play Batman. It's probably easier now because Tim paved the way, and if I did anything to pave the way, I'm proud of that too."